What's up, everybody? Welcome to a Wednesday edition of Morning Cuppa Hockey presented by Bet365. Open an account with Bet365 today and bet on a huge range of markets, whatever the moment. It's never ordinary at Bet365. So use our code NATION, NATION in all caps. That's Colby Cohen. I'm Johnny Lazarus. And we got a lot for you today. There were so many games in the NHL last night, a lot of different things to talk about. The Columbus Blue Jackets being item number one. Zack Werenski now tied with Cale Makar with 50 points amongst defensemen for the most points amongst defensemen in the NHL. We got Pat Maroon joining at around 9:15 to talk about the Blackhawks Fathers trip that's coming up. And we'll get into some, gossip around the NHL with Pat. He's been in the Bruins locker room. He knew what was going on with Pastrnak and Marchand. We'll ask him just about a couple different topics here going on around the league.
I mean, that's
Brayden Point getting scratched. Yeah. I don't know if it's too soon, but Malkin's 3 rings getting stolen last night.
How about scratching a guy for missing a team meeting who's going to be a Hall of Fame player? That just as somebody who coaches and at the junior level, we had a guy who was a couple of minutes late, not for a team meeting or anything, but for a game, meaning, everybody needs to be there at 5:00 for a 7:00 game.
Mhm.
And, I kind of had a pretty uncomfortable conversation with him, but he's one of our top players. So he played that night. And then I see John Cooper sit Brayden Point. I'm like, I just thought to myself, I have no balls. That was
Yeah.
my first thought when I saw that. But it's perfect that we have Pat coming on. These are great topics to get into with him. I think that we'll wait to go any further. But I know today you wanted to start and you wanted to talk about the Columbus Blue Jackets and what they're accomplishing right now as a hockey team. And I'll say this: it's amazing, Johnny, what happens, in my opinion, when you give a player a little bit of extra motivation. A guy like Zack Werenski, who I think this year people started to question, is he going to be on the Four Nations team? Is he going to be on the Olympic team? I mean, I can think back to not that long ago where Zack Werenski and Seth Jones were such an insanely dynamic defensive pair. Together, I mean, I thought that they, on any given night, were the best defensive pair in the National Hockey League. I mean, they were so good together. They played off each other's strengths. I remember the series where they took out Tampa in the first round. They were absolutely men amongst boys in that series, right? They outplayed Victor Hedman. And then there's a little tail off for Zack Werenski, not quite the same level offensively or defensively. He dealt with some injuries. I think he broke his jaw a couple of years ago. I think he had a couple of
other that puck to the face.
Yeah. And it just shows me that you give a guy either a contract year or you start talking and you start doubting a player who's been a really good player, or you give them a little cookie like making the U.S. team. I could just tell you this, man. Every player wants, the highest side of competition comes out when you get to represent your country. And I don't really care whether you agree with me or not in the chat. But you just wouldn't necessarily understand. When you have that opportunity, you just go to another level with your preparation and with your motivation that you just might not have every night in an 82 game schedule when you've made $50 million plus and you've been in the league and played games and done all these different things. So to me, I think this sort of level that he's gone to, I think the Four Nations and the Olympic team, which is kind of on the docket and right around the corner, I think this lit a fire under him and has remotivated him to not just be really good, because Zack Werenski can just wake up today and just be really good at hockey, but go to that medieval level that he's playing at as a the Norris Trophy leading candidate. Having that extra juice and that extra motivation, I think, makes a huge difference.
Well, it's all over the ice too. You see the goal right here, courtesy of FanDuel Sports Network. Werenski, makes a good read on this play, comes out high in the zone. You don't really see defensemen come out that high typically to the blue line to cover their man, right? You can say that as a defenseman, Colby, right? Like, when do you see a defenseman above the top of the circles? Obviously, if they are playing man-to-man in the D zone, it makes sense. But I still think for the most time, that's just him having, good awareness, and that's hockey IQ to make the play and make that read and then jump the gun and get the breakaway.
Yeah, you're just in your anticipation when your confidence is really high as a defenseman and you start riding guys up a little bit, you feel empowered to jump a route, right? Like a guy covering a wide receiver, in the open field. You're seeing the play develop. And I always kind of have said this, and I say this to certain players, I'm trying to think the best way to frame this, but when you're defending a guy, Johnny, and you're feeling, as an offensive superstar, like, you should be able to know what another offensive player is going to do. Like, your brain should be able to process. I never give this thought of an offensive defenseman shouldn't be good defensively, like these super dynamic offensive defensemen, because their brains work at such a high level offensively that, like, Adam Fox should be good defensively because, like, he knows what plays he's looking to make. So why wouldn't the other team? And I think that kind of goes for Werenski. I don't know if that makes sense. I'm kind of
no, it does. It's actually something that
in my head.
I spoke to Peter Laviolette about that last year when Kreider and Mikko were having a lot of success on the penalty kill because they had scored like a few shorthanded goals, and it's like something Laviolette said, when you have guys that are killing that play on the power play, they anticipate what the power play guys are going to do because they know what they would do in those situations. So it gives them the advantage when they're shorthanded because, you put Mika's advantage at defending someone on the half wall. Mika's thinking, what would I be doing right now if I were on the half wall? And he then makes that read and probably picks a pass off and whatnot. Like, it's something that guys understand situations that their opponents are in because they've been in those situations before too. Like, that's probably what you're trying to say, right? As an offensive defenseman, like, they're aware of what the forwards are trying to do because they've been in those situations before as well. Yeah, that's exactly what you're saying.
So you see Werenski jump that route and make that read. It's funny. One of the only breakaways I ever got in my pro career, believe it or not, was actually shorthanded in the American League, because we were in a diamond and I was the guy who was coming up to the flank, right? And the top of the power play got stuck and he just tried to no look one down the wall, and because I was that flank coverage in the diamond, I just kind of was able to jump the route. And the only reason I was able to get into open ice and actually outskate anybody was because the guy at the top of the power play, and I still remember we were playing up in Portland, and this was at the time Portland was affiliated with Arizona, and the guy fell. What?
Not Tuscan?
No, not Tuscan. No. Imagine that, though. Yes, Tuscan. That's right. That's my favorite word. But imagine imagine the Phoenix Coyotes having their AHL team in Portland, Maine.
Yeah.
Imagine trying to get a guy up in a pinch. You think there's not a lot of but anyway, so yeah, it was the only breakaway I had in my pro career was shorthanded in a similar situation to Werenski, without nearly the dynamic explosiveness that he has, but got a couple of lucky plays in a row, and then you end up in on a breakaway. So
you score?
I did score. Yep, I did score.
Nice.
Yep, I did.
What'd you do? 5-hole?
Shot, shoot. No. Glove. Always either glove or low block. I was simple. I would go, because in the American League, in shootouts, it was 5 guys, not 3. And so early in my career, I would usually be in the shootout as I went from being a prospect to a suspect. I was a 7th or 8th type of shooter. Not because I had a lot of points, but in practice, I was usually able to score when we practiced them. But I just kept it simple, right? Like, I was never a big deker. I was more of a shooter. That was what I was comfortable doing.
No Instagram hockey for Colby Cohen. But let's talk about
I can't do any of that stuff, even to this day. Like, I mean, I can pick a puck up on my forehand or backhand, right? But like, I can't, I can't do these things that peewees can do now, like literal
Nuts.
peewees can do it. I can't do any of it. Even you, I mean, I watch you out there when you do those things. You've got a little of that in you. You know what I
Shane
mean?
Pinto said it. I got some good mitts.
Yeah,
Decent
yeah.
mitts.
And other coaches have told me you have good hands as well. So
I had good hands. I just didn't have good feet.
Yeah. By the way, I want to tell you about an email that I just got that's like really exciting about our show. Okay. I'm gonna say it live on our show. I just got an email from the gentleman who does PR for Mike Eruzione, asking if we wanted to have him on the show with the 45th anniversary of the Miracle on Ice and the Four Nations coming.
Pretty cool.
So I'm literally typing back to him. I wrote, Neil, Rizzo can come on our show 7 days a week if he wants, and we don't even do the show 7 days a week. Like, I'm literally saying he has an open door policy to come on our show anytime he wants. You know, so I'm smiling a little bit reading.
Yeah, you're all giddy.
Well, I mean, also, like, I know Rizzo doesn't deal with this stuff himself, but luckily, you know, being around school and everything, I know him, you know, really well. Like, he could have just I never even thought to ask him because I just figured, like, I don't want to bother Rizzo with something like that, you know, but I'm obviously going to respond and let him know he's welcome to come on anytime he wants. So go ahead.
No, I got to tell him the story of when I sat next to him at a bar. I think I told you that story, right? When I would just like kind of bought a beer by myself. I was eating dinner with my grandparents and I saw Mike Eruzione. Well, I actually didn't realize it was Mike Eruzione at the time, but I stumbled upon the Clark Gillies golf outing. So I saw Ron Duguay and like all these guys at the bar in the hotel my grandparents were staying at. And my mom was like, just go grab a beer and like just talk to them. Cause I had no teeth in my mouth at the time too. So I just like was sipping on a Bud Light, just like talking about Eric Cairns and Sean Bates. And next thing I know, I'm sitting next to this guy. I asked him like where he played college, and it was Mike Eruzione. I had no idea it was him until he like told me who he was. Yeah, it was so embarrassing. And then next thing, well, he goes, look who's walking in right now. And it was Mario Lemieux, and I shit my pants. And I was like, oh my God, this is the sickest thing ever. I was just like in my hometown at my like visiting my grandparents, like having dinner, and all these guys, all these NHL Hall of Famers are just sitting at the bar shooting the shit. And I was like, oh my God.
And I can tell you this, Mike Eruzione is just one of the boys. Like, he's the most normal guy. You'd love having a beer with them. You'd love going to dinner with him. I'm sitting by the pool on my honeymoon in Maui, right, with my wife. And across the way, there's this guy holding court, you know, at the bar by the pool in long pants and a black t-shirt, like he always wears. And I'm like, Rizzo, what are you doing here in Hawaii? Of course, he got flown out to the Four Seasons in Hawaii, in Maui, to give a speech to you know, a company retreat that was going on there. And I'm like, must be nice, man. You're like the legend of America, just getting flown around to Maui for 24 hours. You know, just to come and talk for a couple of hours. So yeah, we'll let you guys know. We'll work on getting him on when I hear back, and we'll definitely set that up for everybody.
Yeah, we got to reel it back in, because every time we try to be nice to the Blue Jackets on here, I feel like something gets distracted and we just end up cutting it short. So we got to go back to Zack Werenski and how well he played last night. I did want to show the game tying goal, because Werenski makes a great play here on the back check and then joins the rush again offensively to create a 2-on-1 with Kirill Marchenko, and then he ends up finishing it. The puck originally gets rimmed around the boards. I think Marchenko missed a shot wide. Then you see Werenski make that little stick check there in the neutral zone, and then look at him get right back on his toes and join the play to finish off that beautiful pass from Kirill Marchenko, who we said last week, Colby, like, if we're voting for a most actually, it might have been the episode you were sick. It might have been Jeff, but if we're voting for a most improved player, like the NBA does, right now, Kirill Marchenko might be that guy. Like, what a pass he made. And then Marchenko had that sick shootout goal. I forgot the nickname they called it. Like the fire poker or something, where he like makes the little forehand backhand, but one hands it through the 5-hole of Fedotov. Marchenko's pulled this off a couple times now, and I think he actually got it Alexander when he was with Columbus, but this shootout move was disgusting. Like, made that look so easy. Gets Fedotov to open up a 5-hole for a second.
If there's a guy to try it against, it's Fedotov, because that guy is full of holes. I mean, I see in here today, Adam, I know you're a Flyers fan, and I'm sure, and I think Zach, I think you're a Flyers fan too. We got a couple of them here with us consistently, but if you're gonna try things, do it against Fedotov, because he just like, even with how big he is, he is full of holes. That guy, like the goal. What's interesting though is you watch him, some of the saves that he makes, and you're like, wow, this guy could be something. But then you see the shots that beat him, and I'm like, you're just lacking something. I don't know what it is. I don't know if it's athleticism. I don't know if it's positioning, if he can make a read, like what. But the goals that do get in, are absolutely brutal. And I'll hit a couple of things in the chat. I think Pat's probably here, right?
Yeah, Pat's here.
I'll just Big Willie Styles. I'll respond to you talking about meeting Buzz Schneider at a restaurant. I got to meet Buzz Schneider in Lake Placid one year. I was doing the ECAC Final Four of their conference tournament, and Buzz Schneider was brought back to do like appearances and everything. Another unbelievably cool guy. Like, I'll tell you, they're not all like that from the 80 team, but there are a number of those guys that are such unreal guys to meet and be around. And again, we got Pat, so we want to get him on and talk to him about the things we wanted to talk about. But we'll keep you guys posted with this Mike Eruzione thing for sure.
Yeah, so let's bring in our friend Pat Maroon. But before we do, just want to give a quick word from our sponsor, Proraso, the most complete choice for shaving and beard care, made in Italy since 1948. Proraso has been a staple of Italian culture and barbershops globally for 4 generations, so get 15% off at proraso-usa.com with our promo code hockey15 in all caps, 15. And Pat, is Pops going to make an appearance on the show today or what? What's going on? I know the Father's Trip's coming up.
Can you hear us?
You got us, Pat? Uh-oh.
Can you guys hear me?
Yeah, we got you now. We got you now. You got the B clutch hat on. Were you talking to Jesse last week at the Classic? Yeah. You hear us?
No. Ty gave it to me.
Really?
So I went to that Gretzky basement. So I raided his place. I stole a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, it's a good hat. I like that hat. That's my friend Jesse's company. But I know you just picked up your dad from the airport. Any big plans for the Father's Trip going on this week?
It's only a one-dayer, which is obviously different, but we're heading to Nashville today. We got dinner plans, and then a little bar after, a little live music, and then and that's it. So, and then I'm sure the dads will go on their way and do their thing.
Pat, I think the dad's trip is something that is one of those things that fans get a little bit of a sneak peek at just because of the world of social media. But they obviously don't get to see the whole experience. And you've been around for a while. We just celebrated a big milestone of yours, obviously, in games played. Do you have one dad's trip in particular that maybe stands out a little bit to you amongst the rest? And if there is one, maybe you can give our audience just like a little bit of insights into the stuff that maybe doesn't make social media, because they know you guys, you get them a box, they all wear your jerseys, like, they get to see that part, they get to see them walking onto the plane, but the other 18 hours of it or 36 hours of it, they don't really get to see it.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great experience for everyone. I know they're starting to do Mons trips, and now they're doing like mentorship ones, and now they're doing like sibling trips. So I've only had a dad's trip, which has been great. I think it's a cool experience to see what we do every day, the meetings we have every day, the insight they give us, how we prepare ourselves. And obviously, it's called the Never Hunger League. So there's food everywhere, and all they do is eat. And my dad has gout, so I'm sure his gout will flare up today.
No.
But no, I think it's just awesome to see the everyday we do, right? I got one experience. They did get in a fight in Anaheim.
I was just gonna say, I heard a little rumor about a little dad's fight in Anaheim.
Yeah, it was funny. I think it was like my second year. It was great. We wake up the next morning and we get a video from our team services guy at the time. And we're all dying laughing. They got a little scruffle in the hotel lobby. no one got in trouble, which is a good thing. But just to hear back, and these dads like to have fun, right? Like they enjoy themselves. They're they're like kids, right?
Wait, did the dads fight each other, or did they fight other people?
Other people.
Okay. I thought the dads fought each other.
No, they were fighting about whose kid was getting more power play.
Power player time, yeah. No.
Yeah.
No, they had a little scruffle inside the hotel back, oh, man, I don't even know, 14, 15 maybe? Oh, yeah, it was in San Jose at the Fairmont Hotel. They got in a little scruffle. So it was a funny story at the time, but obviously it was serious at the time. But the dads were having fun with it, though. We were all joking. I think, I don't know, Nate Thompson's dad maybe might have broke his hand, but it can get out of control. But like I said, I mean, there's beer flowing for these guys. There's drinks flowing for them. So I'm sure they don't drink a lot when they're at home. So when they get a little buzzed up, things are being funny. The personalities are from like the teammate standpoint from the dad too, when they come out too, and what they do too. So it's obviously it's a great way for parents or siblings or mentors come on a trip and kind of see our everyday, right?
It's so relatable. Like dads fighting in a hotel bar. How relatable to any dad that watches our show that is a hockey dad. I mean, I assume that stuff still happens, but like I remember.
Wasn't there a parent fight at your game last weekend?
I wasn't there for that, just so you know. I was sick.
Okay.
That was part of my. But I don't think that was a parent fight. I think that was actually just random fans, from what I understood. And then a player from the other team literally like went off the ice and like got involved. This shit show, the North American League. But Pat, the dads are physically in the locker room. They're watching video with you guys, right? Like they're doing the pregame. They're doing the game day prep and the pre-game day prep, all that kind of stuff. Maybe not this one, but have you been a part of groups and dad trips that the dads had that type and level of access?
Yeah, they always come in, and like especially in the morning. So they'll do the morning the pregame. So like PK, power play, whatever, however the head coach sets it up, or the power play or penalty kill coach sets it up. But they're in there in the morning watching video, and then before the game, either one of the dads will come in and say the lineup and all that jazz. But yeah, they're in there full time. So they come with us. They eat morning breakfast with us. They get on the bus with us. They come to morning skate with us. They watch morning skate. They're in on every video session. So they get the full blown experience of like what we do every day, especially on game day, and how we prepare ourselves. So I think it's great. I mean, these are always fun trips. These are the ones you kind of mark in your calendar because you get to spend time with your dad, obviously, but you get to meet other parents, and and you get to let them kind of enjoy and embrace the moment, and obviously they get to watch their kid do what they do for a living and enjoy it. And so I'm sure they're all proud, and we're obviously proud of our dads, the way they raised us too. So it's kind of like a cool experience for everyone at the same time.
I got one more like dad themed question here, and I don't even know it's kind of a question.
Is that what jersey is that, Johnny?
I have so Donna and Chris, this couple from Australia that are huge Ranger fans, sent me a customized Australia jersey last night in the mail. It's pretty sick.
Nice.
Put my name and number. Yeah, it's unreal. They sent it all the way from
your
Australia.
All-Star jersey from high school.
No. I never even made the All-Star team in high school, which is pathetic. But yeah, I'm repping Australia right now, which is really cool. I'm happy you asked. I was going to get to it later in the show. But I think the funniest thing about hockey dads is like when their son, and I know a few dads, like first make the NHL, they're just like so happy their kid's in the NHL, right? Like they don't have any comments. They don't really, say anything about the team. And then let's fast forward to like 400, 500 games. This guy fucking sucks. That guy like it's back to like youth hockey, It's like so funny how the mindset changes. Was your dad like that? Because you're 800 games in now. Is he a little bit more critical of the guys?
No, he's not. He's so reserved, so laid back. I think he just embraces it, enjoys it. He really does just enjoy me playing hockey every single day and watching me play in the NHL, and obviously watching what I do every day, right? So I think he was never like that when I was young either. He always just let me be myself and be me. And, he played soccer back in the day. He was a pretty elite athlete, football and soccer in high school, and he ended up playing soccer in college. But, he was the type of parent that just kind of was laid back and kind of let me kind of freelance and do me, right? He saw these other parents going psycho and nuts about their kids. He's like, that's not going to be me. And, he's still been like that till this day. Like, even when I talk to him on the phone, he's like, that's all right, Pat. Like, get him next time. Like, it's nothing like there's no breaking down the game, but we'll talk.
Move your feet.
No, there's nothing. There's nothing in that moment. No. But we digest the game a little bit, but I think he's more of, kind of let me figure it out. And, you've been through it already, right? And I think at a young age, it's kind of better that way. You don't want too much pressure on yourself as a kid to feel like you need to be the best or you need to go somewhere, right? I think kids tend to figure that out themselves a little bit. Like my kid, for example, I mean, you just kind of let him play a little bit. Obviously, it's a little different for me because I've played it, right, at a high level. But you just kind of let them figure it out themselves. And they will. They'll fall in love with it eventually, or they'll take another sport. But with my son, he just fell in love with the game probably like 12, 13 years old, maybe a little later than that. Like, you just kind of let these kids kind of be kids, right? And my dad's always had that mentality. Like, if you're good enough, someone's going to find you. If you keep working hard, good things will happen for you. So he's always had that model for me, and it's obviously worked out pretty well.
Yeah,
I want to say, Colby,
we've got Brendan Van Riemsdyk in the chat right now, who's the youngest VR brother, and he's given us some insights because he went on Boston's dad's trip and Washington's dad's trip. He sat in for his dad, Franz, who's, if anybody has ever come across any of you guys or Pat, JVR's dad, he's a one-of-a-kind beauty and a legend of a guy. So BVR is in the chat right now talking about how Dylan Strom's dad was MVP of the Boston dad's trip last year. And who did he say for Charlie Coyle's dad, Mr. Coyle, was MVP of the Boston dad's trip. So it's funny when it's like a quieter guy or something, and then their dad comes on the scene and they have this like big personality, and you're like, oh, I guess you're like your mom. I guess you picked up mom's traits, right? That those stories are always hysterical to me.
And you mentioned the elbow room, and that bar is the fucking best.
Week.
What'd you say?
I'll give you an MVP next week. I'll give you a top 5. We'll go
we're gonna need to know
5-1.
Yeah.
All
right.
That's unreal. But I saw Brendan mention elbow room. If you guys have been to that bar in Fort Lauderdale, it's always a blast. I spent like the whole Cup final in 2023 there. It was unreal. That bar is awesome. Have you been there, Pat?
Yeah, I've been to the elbow room.
He's never been to the elbow room, John.
I don't know. Maybe they don't go there. They probably go to cooler places in Florida than the elbow room. If you're in the NHL.
No, that's a staple in the NHL. That's like where you go. Like
it's like asking him if he's been to the Roxy before after 800 something games. I mean, come on. All right, let's switch gears a little bit.
I'm on your side,
eh? Come on.
That stuff is fascinating, and it's great for people to get a little bit of an inside look from you and into that type of thing, Pat. And hopefully you didn't just there you go, you're back. I thought you froze for a second. Want to move around the league a little bit and ask you about 2 topics that have come up over the last couple of days in places that you've spent parts of your career. And the first one is the fact that John Cooper healthy scratched future Hall of Famer Brayden Point for missing a team meeting yesterday. And I mean, like, my first thought was like, God, Coop's he's just got big balls. Like, you're scratching. Rules are rules. Like, that's what probably makes him such a great coach. From all accounts, and I've met Point a couple of times. He's a great teammate. He's a great human. The boys love him. But what did you think of that situation and how Coop reacted? I mean, were you surprised?
I'm not surprised at all. Brayden Point's Brayden Point. He's the best teammate to have. He's one of the best guys in that locker room. Everyone loves him. He just has that personality and the way he brings himself to the rink every day. He's just a hilarious human being at himself, but he's such a competitor on the ice. Like, you look at him, you're like, he's kind of laid back, and you're like, man, is this guy? And he just brings it every single night. And it's like they're saying, like, when you put your skates on, people act different, right? And that's him. Like, he's just a true competitor. I'm not shocked that Coop healthy scratched him. Obviously, it was a big loss, and they probably needed those 2 points. Those 2 points might be costly down the road. Obviously, they're both fighting for that wild card spot right now. So it's probably much needed Brayden Point in the lineup that night. But like you said, Coop, that's what gets his team going. And I think Brayden Point understands too a little bit too. Like, hey, listen, I missed a meeting. Stuff happens. I'm sure he won't lose sleep over it, but it's something that Coop, holds his players accountable for. It's one thing, you just be prepared and show up and be ready to go, right? And it's an unfortunate situation because Brayden Point's such a great guy, great teammate, great friend to me. And I think that was a huge game for them last night for the standings wise, and I think that 2 points is going to come down, right? Those two teams are going to be fighting till the end. So it sucks to see, but if you watched the game last night, it was an electric game. Obviously, Boston kind of came out hot in the first period, and then Tampa came back on hot. But two good goalies going at it, a lot of good scraps. Just a big, heavy matchup, and it was fun to watch.
I want to ask from the player's perspective too, because I remember in college, we had a kid on our team miss a meeting once, and our coaches just didn't scratch him. They just sat him for the first period, like to punish him in some way. But like really, that just punished us because now like we're rotating a center for a period, and it's like, like we were kind of pissed that he wasn't scratched. Like, do players, if Brayden Point was playing, like, did they almost think like, dude, why, he missed a meeting, like, why is he not being punished? But it is Brayden Point, is there almost like a flip side to that? If you get what I'm saying?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's been times where I've been in rooms where we needed the guy to play, and they played him. They asked the leadership group, and we're like, listen, we need a win tonight, right? We need to play him. Listen, there's different scenarios. There's, obviously, if it's a first-time offense or second-time offense, like, it depends on the situation and where we're at, and obviously where you're at in the, how many games are left and, how many points you need, down the stretch to get where we need to be, right? So, like, I've been in situations where they healthy scratched a guy and, they obviously bagged him and put him in the gym and bagged him there too. But I also been
That's the worst part. It's not just getting scratched. It's the death march that they put you through. No one, man, Doug Jarvis. I mean, I don't think I've ever been skated harder in my life. I don't know if you ever came across Doug Jarvis in your career. He's got like 47 Stanley Cups throughout his playing and coaching career, but worst bag skate coach ever. Nicest guy in the world, but I mean, really makes you feel extra bad about being a healthy scratch with the paces that he puts you through.
Yeah, I have nightmares of Ben Barr banging his stick, telling me to skate. Night.
Yeah, but like I said, there's different scenarios. I've been in a lot of different scenarios, and more than a couple where like it's where they bring the leadership in, and we kind of decide and dictate what we think is right or wrong, right? But listen, if the player's keen, he didn't mean to, like, just like slept in, like, that's a different story, right? Like, not like he's out partying. Like, Brayden Point was not out partying. I can guarantee you that. That's not who he is. I know for a fact. I think he probably just slept in and missed his alarm. I know for a fact that's just the type of kid he is. He's just laid back, and he's probably just sitting in his room. He probably didn't know what time the bus was, to be honest with you. But he's not doing it to hurt the team. I know that for a fact. So there's always two sides to every story. But I know like with the veterans, and if you feel like you need the guy, I think you play them. I mean, listen, it's a mistake. I don't think you meant to miss the team meeting by any means. Obviously, that's the worst anxiety you can ever go through as a player, knowing when you wake up or you go downstairs and the bus is gone when you went down there. If the bus was at 9 and you're down there at 9:01, you're like, oh my God, this is painful. But even when you wake up later in the meeting, the meeting's at 9:45 and it's 9:35, you're not going to make it. So
it's like that terrible dream every hockey player has where you just can't find your gear or you can't get your skate on and you can't get out there. Like, for whatever reason, there's always a roadblock. I mean, I've had that dream so many times in my life. I don't know if you guys have ever had that dream.
I actually lived it. I forgot my skates at a USHL tryout. I had to borrow the coach's skates for the first skate, and I looked like I couldn't even fucking move out there. And they were like, why did we invite this kid? Like, I literally felt like an idiot. My sister had to run to UPS to overnight my skates to the Sioux Falls Stampede tryout.
You will be the guy that forget your skates at home, eh?
Yeah.
Does that shock you at all, Pat?
No.
You know how many times I showed up to the rink and I was like, Dad, left my helmet at home. Can you drive out to Brooklyn and bring me my helmet? Like, I was, just clueless. But Pat, I do want to take a question from J-Rock in our chat, and he actually kind of asked Colby to ask this question, but I'm stealing it. J-Rock is a St. Louis guy, a big fan, and he said, can you ask Pat which of the 5 trades he's been involved in was the biggest change for him personally?
I've been traded 5 times.
I guess. I didn't know that. Yeah, I guess.
Is it February yet? Is it February yet?
I don't know. The biggest, I thought the trade from Anaheim, obviously I didn't want to leave Anaheim, but I thought the trade from Anaheim to Edmonton was like a good thing for me, a good situation for me. I didn't know where they were going to slot me, but I thought, they had some good depth in the organization, obviously with Leon and Connor. And then, we still had Taylor Hall at the time, Jordan Everly, Nugent Hopkins. They had some good core players that, that were still young, but, we're still trying to push for a playoff spot. Obviously, I got traded from a contender to a team that was in last, but I thought the situation was going to be really great for me in my career. And obviously it worked out very well. We made the playoffs my first full year at Edmonton, and, I had success right out of the gate playing with those guys, and kind of just kick-started my career a little bit. Obviously I had success in Anaheim. I was playing with, Getzy and Perry at some points. I was playing with a lot of good players. They had future Hall of Famers on that team. And, I learned so much in that organization, not only from the GM standpoint but the players itself and how to act and how to present yourself every single day and how to treat people and, what a winning culture is like. And, you bring those kind of things you learn over to other teams. And I learned so much from those guys for the 4 years I was there. But I think Edmonton kind of kickstarted my career, believing I can, play in this league for a long time, knowing that, but put up some good numbers. And I think that was kind of the, when you go throughout your career, you guys know, you be all this, you can put up all these numbers throughout your career, but when you get to NHL, you kind of change into a role player. You need to adapt into the new NHL, or you need to adapt for yourself, find ways to stay in the NHL. But when I got to Edmonton, Todd McCollum believed in me and jump-started my career. And, I got to play with, 2 Hall of Famers and believed in myself a little bit. So I thought Edmonton was kind of a way to build confidence in NHL, knowing that you can still hang around, you can still put up numbers. And I thought it was a good change of scenery for me. Obviously at the start, I was kind of upset because, it was an opportunity to go back and try to win a cup with Anaheim, but it was one of those situations where it was probably the best thing for me.
Some more backdoor tap-ins in Edmonton and Anaheim, huh?
No, Getzy and Perry. No, not so much Perry. His passes are kind of shit, but for sure Getzy. Getzy had some nice backdoor tap-ins for me. He was actually texting me last night. He's like, well, if you didn't leave me, you probably would have got 1,000 points, because he was just busting my balls last night. And I was like, well, if your GM didn't trade me, if you didn't have anything to do with it, maybe.
It's funny. When you were in Anaheim, did you play with Bonino? Was he there?
Yeah, I played with Bones. Me, him, and Palmieri came up together. Well, Bones was kind of already there before. He was up and down the year before, and then it was me, Bones, Palmieri on a line together in the minors, and Peter Holland was down there too, and Dan Sexton.
Oh yeah.
So guys that were kind of in and out, up and down, and then kind of the lockout year, we all kind of came up together. Bones was kind of up there already before the year before that year, but the following year we all kind of started playing together.
He was he was a pretty underrated guy, and Sexton, I played against him over in the Finnish league one game, and he toe dragged me so bad. Like I'm pretty sure that's one of the reasons the team wanted to terminate my contract, because I embarrassed them so bad on that play with Ben Sexton. Pat, the last question that I have for you is kind of another one of these topics around the National Hockey League, and I know it's a little bit old right now, but I'm curious your thoughts on the way Brad Marchand handled that whole situation last week, where he just came right out, confronted it head on, went right back at the guy, which I absolutely loved. I don't think enough guys do that. I think we have the keyboard warriors and the people with their podcasts and radio people that are just throwing clickbait with zero validity to it. Johnny, stay quiet.
Not us.
But I love the way that Marshy handled it personally. I'm curious. You were just in the room last year. You've seen this stuff firsthand. How did you feel that Marshy handled that whole situation, and what did you make of it?
I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. I think personally we need to do more of it. Because I think, people want to start rumors, and they want to, like you said, they want to have clickbait. They have these keyboard warriors that want to find ways to just put out a story that's not true. And I think personally for me, I think it was the best thing that we could have saw in the NHL. And I loved his Instagram post that he just followed up with it.
Yeah.
And then he followed up with, like, obviously his other regards on him and the whole story. So Marshy's a hilarious human being, by the way. He's so funny, so witty. You play with him. He's so fast with it. And I loved everything he did with it. I think what they're saying, because they're losing hockey games, you're just going to make up a story that just is bullshit completely. And I was in that room. I wasn't in that room for very long, but I was in that room long enough to see where the duo was and how much they respect each other and how close they really are together. So that's a close-knit locker room in that Boston organization, and they have a really great locker room. So I love how he handled the situation. I think it's the best thing that he could have done, because that's the person he is. Though if someone chirps him on Twitter too, he goes right back at him.
Yeah.
And or anything on Instagram or any social media outlet, he goes right at these guys. And I think, like you said, we need more in that game. We need more stuff in the game like that, because these reporters just want to just throw some bullshit out there and not even fabricate it a little bit, but just make a complete up story that's completely false, which is bullshit, just for clickbait. And they still do that now to just to rag on a player and put him down. He's already put down, just keep ragging on him. And eventually, that player's eventually going to see it, but he'll never say anything. I think we need more of that, in the game. And I think Marshy handled it pretty well. And I thought it was completely hilarious. I thought it was hilarious.
Well, and Johnny, I don't know if you see it in the chat, New York Marine. And I've seen this. It's not just New York Marine saying this. Other people are saying that because of how Marshy responded, that tells you that there is actually a rift between the two players. And I don't agree with that premise, because all we ever do is bite our tongues, and we never reply to the media, and you never want to give them the time of day. And then, then they go on their own journey with it, and they continue to talk about it, and they continue to make it up. So for once, a guy actually stood there and said it's total nonsense. You're a joke and you shouldn't have a job. And now you have a group of people, and I've seen a lot of people. Again, you're not alone on this, New York Marine. And I see Jeremiah, you're saying in the chat that you heard maybe the front office set this out there to try to fire up the group. Like, I just don't, I don't subscribe to any of those things. I don't think they're smart enough to do that.
Conspiracy theories.
I know that locker room really, really well. And I just can tell you right now, it's 100% false. I mean, you're hearing it from Pat. I'm obviously not as close to it as Pat was, but I just disagree as somebody that's a very confrontational person. And when I hear things, I confront them right away and try to do it face to face. I don't think that that's accurate information, Johnny, and go ahead.
Well, I was just going to ask Pat, are you cool if I start a rumor? Because I'm going to tweet after the show saying the Blackhawks lost back-to-back games, but Pat Maroon took the team out for a nice steak dinner and paid for the entire bill just to get back on track here. You cool with that if I start that rumor?
As long as you put your credit card down, Johnny.
I think we lost him. What do you say? We lost there for a second.
Yeah. Can you hear me? No, I said no because then everyone in the locker is going to say Pat Maroon's a liar.
True. Well, has there ever been anything that's been made up about you that like in your career that someone said something and you're like, that's just not true at all?
I mean, I would have to dig deep. I have to think about it, but
yeah,
I'm sure there has been a ton of rumors about me, but not that I have like recently seen or in the past like 4 or 5 years. No, but I'm sure in the beginning of my career, there's been a lot of rumors. I'm sure you can find some Philly articles about when obviously what happened with me about what's going on. So I would have to dig deep though on that one. I'm sure there's a lot of false information in those articles.
Yeah, I always
Jack Edwards started a rumor about you on TV a couple of years ago, and I call bullshit. You're just a big strapping guy. I thought that rumor Jack Edwards started was totally false, Pat.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, obviously, Jack he was obviously Boston loved him. He was really good at what he did, and we made up now, so it's fine now. We can sit here and bullshit about it. I don't hate him. You know what was cool about that situation? My teammates came up to me first and had my back right away. It was just like, what are you going to do about this? So we went about it the better way. Obviously, it wasn't what I want to hear on national TV, on live TV, and then I'm getting comments, and then as I'm eating pizza in the shower, when Stan was coming up to me. But yeah, I mean, it's obviously bullshit what he said, but you know, we're good now, and he said what he had to say, and it ended up as good as it could have went. That whole situation.
I can tell you that the minute you put on that Boston Bruins crest, that guy would have defended you with the last breath in his body when you put on that Spoke B. So he's certainly a different individual and a different human being. But you wear that black and gold, he will eat bullets for people who wear that logo. No doubt about that.
100%. He'll go to bat for his players, and I think that's what obviously people would say. Oh, he's one-sided. But yeah, I mean, he was there for a long time. He defended his players, and he loved the Boston Bruins. He loved the organization, and he would go to war for his players. And sometimes you got to be a homer a little bit, right? And he did a good job of that.
I don't know. I'm never a homer. I wouldn't know what that's like. But obviously, you guys all get the joke. Yeah, laugh, please, Jesus.
Yeah, I did.
But while we're on the topic, Pat, like Colby and I talked about it, I think right after the Winter Classic, and I feel like we just kind of have to ask you this question. I don't know if like Connor has seen it, like the Jeremy Roenick clip where he talked about how Connor didn't like shake his hand at the Winter Classic. Have you seen that? And had you guys talked to Connor about it? And curious if you can share like what his reaction was to that, and you know how you guys went about that.
Honestly, I wish I had a story for you, but I haven't even brought it up to him. I watched the clip. obviously it's not a tough look for him because he doesn't know. I don't think he's 20 years old. Like, I'll defend him on that situation. It's really tough for him to understand the respect side of it. I think, he's going to be an elite player in this league. He's going to have that status, as he gets older. And but I don't know. I saw the clip. I've been on Timmy Pale and Jeremy's podcast before, and listen, I don't know what to think of it because, like, as an older guy, older veteran, I grew up watching those guys. Connor didn't grow up watching those guys, so it's kind of different. But obviously, we are in a hockey world. Those are 3 Hall of Famers. Their jerseys are getting retired. Jeremy Roenick just got inducted to the Hall of Fame. Savard's one of the best Chicago Blackhawks, to wear that sweater. And it's different, but I never asked him on it. I don't think it's my job to ask him. I think if he had an opinion, he'd probably go to Jeremy first, or maybe if he has some help on that situation. But no, I just listen. It probably got blown out of proportion a little bit, I would say. I don't know how you guys feel, but I just thought maybe overreaction a little bit on the whole situation. But I don't know though. You guys have a different a view on that sense. I'm going to defend my player. He's my teammate. So I'm going to defend Connor on that, on that whole situation, because he probably didn't know, right? We're on the bench.
That's what I
bench
said.
Is tight.
No,
the
we
bench
both
is
said
tight.
we actually weren't really that hard on Bedard here about that, but we also didn't take our knives out for JR either. We felt like JR was talking about a situation. He has a show. Everybody's always clamoring for people to tell them their honest truths and their honest stories, and he did it. And of course, it doesn't shine the best light on a kid who's sort of an up and coming superstar and potential face of the league one day, type of player if he turns into that. And maybe it's just a little bit of a teaching moment, like you're talking about, Pat, where when you're a great player, there's just great responsibilities that kind of come with it, and there's more that comes along with it than a guy who's a call up and in and out and a third liner or whatever. So we really didn't kill Bedard here, by the way. I think we were pretty look, we don't think that this is some big crazy story, and we don't think that JR is a crazy person, and we don't think Connor killed anybody and should go to jail. We just, it's a situation, and situations happen every day, and you learn from these types of moments. That's kind of what we talked about.
Yeah, you learn from them, and I think, those guys are obviously they were hell of players, and the way they presented themselves, and they're obviously all in the Hall of Fame. And sometimes, what is the saying? Greatness recognizes greatness, right? Or
Colby likes the Spider-Man one. With great power comes great responsibility.
Great responsibility.
Spider-Man, I don't really know. You laugh every time I say that, and I just think you're an idiot.
It is what it is. It kind of got blown over. I don't think no one would ever talk about it unless JR went on his podcast and talked about it. And listen, JR has every right and his opinion to say what he thinks. And so does Connor in that moment. But like I said before, I'm going to stick up for my teammate. He probably had no clue to go over there and say hi. Yeah. We are about to drop the puck in 5 minutes, so maybe he's focusing and preparing for the game, right? So there's always two sides to every story, but listen, it is what it is. It's over, and I've never, like I said before, I didn't talk to Connor on it, but listen, I went over there and said hi, but I'm different. Because I grew up watching those guys.
Yeah,
you have respect.
No, I just don't think.
I'm kidding.
I just don't think he realized. To be honest with you,
you don't know what you don't know.
He was probably focused into the game, as much as anyone. He's pretty detailed in the game. He's pretty laser focused when it comes to game time and puck drop. So maybe he was just focusing on the game, which as he should be. He's a hockey player.
Yeah.
He's on one of the biggest stages that day. You know, everyone's tuning in. There's 40,000 fans ready to watch him, right? And he's in his hometown. He's playing for, like it's his home game for him, right? So it can go two different ways, in my opinion.
Yeah. Just had to ask while you're on here, but that's all we got.
You're really trying to stir the fucking pot, Johnny.
No, we're trying to get answers, dude. This is journalism.
No, you're trying to stir the pot.
It's fucking journalism. I'm starting the rumor. Pat and Bedard are riffing in the room.
We're gonna have to pull you back a little bit.
All right, Pat. Look, have fun on the dad's trip. I think you're gonna get one in Nashville. I just have a good feeling you're gonna get one for your dad. And then
I hope so.
Next week.
They don't come by much.
How many beers are being deleted at Tootsie's?
You want to say hi?
Uh-oh.
Can you say good morning?
Morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is the stuff that everybody comes for right here, Pat. But look, as always, we are super appreciative of your time, especially with your family around. We don't take it lightly that you make time for us every week, man. So we're grateful and have a good trip to Nashville. We'll be watching the game and we'll catch up with you one day next week. All right.
Yeah, I'll write down my top 10 or top 5.
All right. Thanks, man. See you, Pat.
All right, see you guys.
The best. That was good stuff.
You know what, Johnny? I'm gonna go and give you a compliment here. Okay.
Why?
I'm gonna give you a compliment. Good for you for asking that question. Honestly, I had kind of forgotten about that whole thing. Yeah. But I listen. How do you not ask them the question? Because I'll give you credit for having it in you to ask that question. So I would have figured if we were talking about that, it probably would have had to come from me. Good job. You've been doing that more lately.
I'm really good at my job.
You've been asking questions that I'm like, wow, apparently Johnny, he's been going through puberty and he's growing up a little bit. Like, I'm a little proud of you at times.
Should I tweet the steak dinner thing?
No. Because he doesn't look at Twitter. He doesn't look at Twitter. So
yeah, Pat definitely never checks social media for sure.
So obviously Pat stayed on with us for a while today. I did want to quickly, I know there was a lot of games last night. I know we were all kind of bouncing around the games. Lane Hudson, 3 points last night. I mean, that the one play he made where he buys himself time in the neutral zone and then he gives it to Kirby Dach late in the second period. I think Kirby Dach makes a great play, but another couple primary assists by Lane Hudson. Like, what's crazy to me with Hudson is that he's playing the exact same way he played at the college level. Like, I thought he would have to adapt to the NHL game, but he's basically playing and doing the exact same things at the best league in the world as he did at the NCAA level, which, I mean, the kid is, and the same can be said for Celebrini. Same can be said. He's playing the exact same way. He's got 2 primary assists last night in a big win. But both of these guys are teenagers who are dominating stretches of games in the National Hockey League. It's crazy impressive, Johnny. But the game that I enjoyed the most last night was New Jersey, Florida. I didn't watch. Vic was watching Dallas, Toronto. He was on that one. I know you were watching. You were bouncing around, but I was pretty dialed into that Florida game, and it was just a new reappreciation night for me for Gustav Forsling. And just the way that he gets up and down the ice with such ease, and the way that he defends and just closes so many plays down offensively. Like, you watch that game, there wasn't a ton. The first half of the game, it was like such a highly structured game where guys they couldn't break the other team's defense down. Like, give Jersey credit as well. Like, Jersey defended their net about as hard as I've seen them defend their net in the last 3 or 4 weeks in the way that they played. But that was a playoff feel type of game. It really was. I mean, it was low scoring. There weren't a ton of high danger chances. There was not a lot happening in the middle of the ice. It was physical. The better players played well. The goaltenders were pretty good. That was a fun game to watch. Like it felt playoff-esque to me, which again in mid-January I really can appreciate that.
Well, there is a bit of hatred there. I don't know if it was last year or 2 seasons ago where Nico Hischier and Tkachuk went at it. I'm forget. It was in Florida. I know for a fact. I think Tkachuk like jumped Hischier. I'm trying to remember the exact play 2 years ago or last year. It might have been last year. But that hit last night too. Like that became, a big talking point. I tweeted last night, like, I don't know what I think of this hit. I couldn't really tell if I, thought Tkachuk left his feet or not. In slow-mo, it's obviously a little bit easier to tell, but when I initially saw it, it kind of looked a little dirty, but then as you slow it down, it seems like it's just a good hard hit. But these two teams, like Hischier and Tkachuk, have gone at it a few times, and I fucking love that from Nico Hischier. Like, he didn't even hesitate to go after Tkachuk after that hit was thrown. Hischier had his gloves off right away, and I honestly love that response from the Devils. Like, you see your captain get hit like that, and everyone just jumps Tkachuk. Yeah, but again, well, if this isn't Matthew Tkachuk, like, is it different? Like, I think he is just the ultimate, like, get under the opponent's skin. Like, this guy is just.
Well, it was a great hit. First off, it was a great hit. There wasn't too many steps. And he doesn't leave his feet. His feet come off the ice once there's contact. And that we see quite often. And everybody yells and screams and says they left their feet, but it's not reality. It's once you hit a player, your feet come up and off the ice. So I didn't think that that was a penalty whatsoever. I also didn't think the hit that Darren Radish had on Cole Koepke, which they reviewed for a 5-minute major and then they ended up downgrading it to no penalty. That was a perfectly clean hit. There wasn't much of a response to that one. It was Darren Radish. But I thought they were good hits. Like I thought both of them were good hits. I thought they were good, clean hockey hits. I thought they stirred the pot in a game that was already kind of on edge. Here's the other hit that we're talking about. You see Koepke leaning in and kind of down, and Darren Radish elbow tucked in, again, doesn't leave his feet. It's through the body. Right? Like that hit is through his chest and through his body.
Perfectly
that is
timed,
a beautiful, clean hit. You hate the outcome of the hit. You hate seeing a guy injured. You hate seeing a guy, feel like their bell was rung, but it was a beautifully executed, clean hit in that game as well. And the refs got it right. They really did. They looked at it, and they got that hit right.
Yeah, no, I thought it was a great night of hockey. Like, those were some of the highlights too. And then I want to talk about Ethan Frank again. I mean, this kid's now played 3 NHL games, has 2 goals and just a point in each of them. And the Washington Capitals, they just keep on coming. I know it was against the Ducks. The Ducks haven't been playing that bad lately. Logan Thompson gets his first shutout of the year. You were saying like Hellebuck is the clear-cut Vezina favorite the other day. I don't know, man. Logan Thompson is right up there with him, I think.
Yeah, I mean, I think you could definitely make that argument. I mean, let me ask you though, what's the split between Thompson and Lindgren?
I believe Thompson's 18-2-3 this year. Let me double
but I just mean as far as games played, like, are they splitting? I know for a while they were kind of rotating, and I think that's always the big difference with Hellebuck is that Hellebuck is sort of the last guy who plays 75% of the games. And there's
Thompson
people that
started 23 and Lindgren started 21. So I guess
So you're talking. It's back to that whole Ullmark Swayman conversation. And listen, Ullmark won a Vezina working off of Swayman, and Swayman had amazing years working off of Ullmark. So we're not dogging it. But I for the first chunk of the season, these guys were going back and forth with their starts, which is, again, I think that sets Hellebuck a little bit ahead. And I think that it's why I would say he's running away with the Vezina a little bit over Logan Thompson, not taking away anything from Logan Thompson. Look, from the get-go this year, I was telling you that I like the Washington Capitals. You can go back to the tape from our original preview shows. I had them as a playoff team. I liked the way they were built. I thought Chychrun once he's settled in there, could be a difference maker for them. I've always been a big Trevor Van Riemsdyk fan, and what he brings to any team's third pair. Like when he's on your third pair, I feel good about your mix. PLD, he's got almost 30 assists already this year. I don't know exactly what his goals are, but
I think 7. I think it's 7 goals.
I think I saw yesterday. I don't know if Jeremiah said this in the chat yesterday or with somebody else, but I saw somebody say they didn't think Washington was in the top 5 of the power rankings. I think I saw that yesterday. I could be wrong.
I think that was Jeremiah.
I don't see how anybody could say that. Like, I think the Washington Capitals are scary with the size that they have up front, and the goaltending and the some of the horses they have on the back, and again the size and the heaviness that they have. I mean, you've got the wild card in Ovi who can always score goals for you. I mean, Patra, McMichael. I mean, it's a really, really well-oiled machine type of team that I just wouldn't want to run into in the first round of the playoffs or really at any point of the playoffs. So I like the Caps, Johnny. And if Ethan Frank can continue to score, it's just another depth scoring piece. Maybe he becomes not a depth scoring piece. Maybe he becomes, a counted on scoring piece, right? So, give him credit.
I mean, send right back down to the AHL, like with how he's playing,
Well, I mean, listen, right now you're not, but how many players hit a wall? I mean, we do know that happens. And this kid's just a goal scorer. Like, you put him around the net, he's going to find the back of it. Like, whether it's along the ice, under the bar, under the blocker, like, this kid out of Western Michigan is a goal scorer. Look at his look at his track record. He scores at every single level that he plays on, and you just love. He settles it down. He gets his head up. He finds the spot, and he puts that thing in the back of the net. So
30 goals his rookie year in the AHL, 29 his second year, and then this year he had 20 goals in 35 games.
Yeah. So do you want to talk about the Colorado Ranger game? I did watch a good chunk of that last night. I know you were dialed into it. I know you feel like, your New York Rangers are playing pretty well again, at least some of them.
Well, they're at least fun to watch again.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, I guess my biggest question for you, and I'm going to put you on blast with this, is I sat here and listened to you tell me for the last 12 months that Alexis Lafreniere, the only reason he wasn't going to, like, the minute he got on that top power play, everything was going to change for him, and he was going to be on his way to his 100 points and this and that. He's been on the top power play now for what, 2.5, 3 weeks?
About, yeah.
He's got 2 power play points this
probably
year.
Like 6 to 8 games, I'd say.
In his last 8 games, he hasn't had a point on the power play.
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's no excuse for it. The one thing I will say, though, just to play devil's advocate, is that, Laviolette could have thrown him on the power play in the beginning of the season when things were going well. You're throwing him on the power play when things are in the dumpster and things are shit. Like, what do you expect? He's not going to save it all himself.
Well, the power play's been a little better lately. It's
gotten a little better the past couple of games, but
yeah, they've been producing, but he's not a part of it.
No, but I'm saying, though, like, I was saying this when things were going well.
But why would you change a power play when the power play is going well?
Because I thought a player had earned the opportunity to try it when at the time Mika still wasn't playing that well. Like, Mika on the power play was probably the worst part of it. I think everyone could have agreed with that. And, I see Drew K saying cope harder, but yeah, this is me coping. Like, I'm fully opening up to that. Like, this is the exact thing I'm doing. Right. But I also think I'm right in that sense. Like, if you're throwing a player into a bad situation, how often are they going to be successful in that bad situation? Like, the Rangers power play having to struggle 15 games and put Lafreniere on it like he's going to save it. No, that's not what's going to happen.
He's a 100-point guy, might.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. I saw your tweet last night.
What did you think of the Malkin situation? His house gets broken in. I think that whole Malkin situation, the thing that gets me is all of the articles that are like, Malkin's house has been broken into and his Stanley Cup rings are missing. Well, I don't think they're missing. I think they were stolen by the people who stole and went into his house and robbed him. It seems like
Yeah.
It's a thing right now. I think it's happened to a couple of NFL players on Sundays. You know, Joe Burrow. I think it happened to Travis Kelce. Like it's definitely an issue going on where these athletes' homes are being robbed right now while they're playing games.
Claude Drew, right?
Hopefully they can track down those Stanley Cup rings. That's disappointing to hear. Good luck selling those.
Pete Blackburn had a funny tweet last night, and what if this is actually true? Pete Blackburn said Marc-Andre Fleury took it too far this time. I mean, what if that was possible? I don't know. I don't really know what to make of that though.
Yeah,
too soon for jokes. Too soon for jokes.
Yeah. So, look, if you're enjoying today's episode, you enjoyed Pat, give us a like on the episode. You guys know how much those mean to us and what those do for the show and the algorithms and whatnot. If you're not subscribed to Daily Faceoff's YouTube channel, make sure you do subscribe. Obviously, we've got the full lineup today of DFO live at noon and then the sheet at 3. On top of that, there's the the different shows that Frank and Gregoire put out and Irf and all the other people that do a great job contributing to the Daily Faceoff. We're coming down the pike here of trade deadlines, so things are going to start popping up. Things are going to start getting put out on the channel that are not things that are scheduled. If something big happens in New York Ranger land with a big trade, I'm sure they're going to have Johnny, with a quick breakdown video on the Daily Faceoff YouTube. So make sure you like the episode. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Really important for us and the growth of our show. Johnny, I think you need to talk to Proraso about getting Pat Maroon a nice, box of goodies like the ones they sent us last year. I think that's something you should get on real quick for our guy, Pat Maroon. And then other than that, what do you got for us for Bet365 today? Did you win last night? Did you hit?
Yes, sir. It was Columbus money line. Thank God for Zack Werenski and Kirill Marchenko. And tonight, only 2 games tonight, so it's a little shorter or a little less of a slate. But we're going Carolina to win in regulation on the road in Buffalo. Carolina coming off of a bad loss at home against the Anaheim Ducks, and the Buffalo Sabres are the Buffalo Sabres. There shouldn't be more to that. Sabres have lost 4 of their last 6. And Carolina has won 2 of their last 3 and 3 of their last 5. Carolina is the clear-cut better team here. They probably should have won the game against Anaheim the other night at home. Cutter Gauthier 2 goals for the Ducks after getting killed in Philadelphia. So good to see him back on the score sheet. But tonight we're trying to make it 3 in a row this week, and we're going Carolina to win in regulation. So it's not a busy night of hockey. What were you going to say?
How come you never do prop bets? How come you always go straight wins losses? I never see you doing shot prop bets or
We've done a couple
like
goal
that.
scorers. We've done a couple goal scorer bets. But the prop bets, I think it's more fun when you give out these on the show. It's more fun to root for a team than root for a prop. Because for the team, you're obviously paying attention to the whole game. A prop, you're just like focusing on one player shifts. Like, it kind of sucks sometimes. There are obviously props that do stand out at sometimes or at some points, but also we're hopping on here at 9 a.m. and sometimes the props aren't even up yet. So that makes it a little bit harder too. So it's all kind of just like timing and everything. But I like going for the sides of the totals for the most part. So tonight we're rooting for Carolina in regulation. With that said, we are working on a really cool guest for tomorrow. And that is Brant Berglund from the NHL. He does a lot of the NHL data and tracking. So it'd be cool to get a stats guy on here, but he comes with the hockey background. He was the Boston Bruins video coach from 2002 to 2010. It's not fully locked in yet, but it is looking more likely than not that he will be on the show tomorrow. So I know there are a lot of people in our chat and a lot of listeners that appreciate the stats and appreciate the angle that Brant will come from. We'll probably do some video breakdown and how probabilities change throughout a shift. There was one example that Brant gave at the Winter Classic, which is where I met him, about Connor McDavid's scoring chance late in last year. It was a Bouchard, and McDavid just tipped it a little bit over the net. But the way that he gives out this information is really easy to obtain and honestly really interesting. So, I hope that we are able to get him on tomorrow, and I hope that you guys enjoy him if we do. That's all I got for today, Colby. If you want to take here and wrap the show up.
No, look, we appreciate Pat's time today. He was with us for a while. We're working on that great guest. Obviously, we'll hopefully now have Mike Eruzione on here in the next couple of weeks to talk about the anniversary. of 1980. Maybe we'll have Jeff Merrick come and sit in the waiting room on that show just to watch us talk about our friends at USA Hockey. And we know he loves that so much. And then other than that, no, look, we appreciate everybody rolling with us. I know we went a little bit on a longer show today, which we do try to do on days where Jonny doesn't have to get to the Garden, or I don't have to take Sloan to soccer practice, or get to my own practices. So that's all that we have. And we'll be back for our last show of the week, 9 a.m. tomorrow. Thanks for rolling with us, everyone.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.